and last speaker for the evening, and it is Associate Professor Seamus Higgins. Seamus is an Associate Professor and Course Director in Food Process Engineering at the University of Nottingham, UK. He has over 35 years of experience across global food manufacturing, engineering, and academia. He is also the author of the book Food and Us, the incredible story of how food shapes humanity. And today he's going to talk to us about his book. Seamus, over to you.
Thanks, Mike. Wade, thanks for the introduction, and I hope the sound is working well. I hope you've got a little bit of music background to that slide. But my privilege, welcome to everybody for joining us, and my privilege to be with you today. And of course, as Meng Wei introduced, it's about food, and us, the incredible story of how food shapes humanity. Right, food. What do you think about food? I mean, how would you define it? I mean, food hits a lot of things to a lot of people. Basic necessity of life, an integral part of our culture and evolution, makes us feel good, doesn't it? And satisfies our hunger. Should fulfill our nutritional needs. And of course, food production today, it's a profitable business. But I actually like the philosophical view. Food is actually love. I mean, think about it. It's the first gift a mother bestows on her child. Growing up as children, food is our first experience of care, protection, and connection. It builds our bodies, shapes our minds, and binds families and communities together. And long before we understood science or economics. In many ways, food and us, it's the story of how food becomes the physical expression of the human experience itself. This is Lucy, okay, one of our earliest known hominin ancestors to walk on two legs. She lived about 3.2 million years ago. Think about it, no supermarkets, no restaurants, no farms, and no food industry. Every day was a search for enough food to survive. And it was this simple challenge, finding food, that would shape the next 3 million years of human evolution. I mean, our food has evolved over millions of years, from early primates to Lucy with a broader diet. Archaic humans, they scavenged animal-sourced foods from other animal kills. It was later when Homo erectus improved scavenging and later hunting, increased meat intake. Fire and cooking increased digestibility and nutrient availability. But of course, just as our food evolved, so did our bodies physically evolve to match. I mean, the human brain size has grown 3 times larger than our ape relatives. We developed smaller teeth and spent far less time feeding than apes, 5% instead of an expected 48% of daily activity. Our gut, smaller gut, larger small intestine, comprising 56% of total gut volume, and a shrinkage of the large intestine to a mere 20%. Obviously, less fermentative capacity. But as a protection towards meat-borne pathogens, the human stomach has evolved to be one of the most acidic in the animal kingdom. And of course, we also develop preferences for sweetness, fat, and energy-dense foods because that helped us to survive. So in a nutshell, we did not simply evolve with food, we evolved because of it. For millions of years, food shaped us. Today, in just 0.002% of that time, our modern food system is now shaping us faster than our biology can adapt. Think about it. Our biology has evolved over millions of years, and yet our modern food system has changed in such a moment, in such a relatively short time. Today, that environment has also changed dramatically. Scarcity has become abundance, and to understand that better, we need to look at how our brains also evolved. Over millions of years, our brains evolved powerful mechanisms to survive and thrive in a world of scarcity. Our senses gathered information, our perceptions interpreted, our actions and reward systems were influenced by our behavior. Together, these mechanisms helped our ancestors find food, avoid danger, build families and trusted communities, and reproduce successfully. But this is the problem. They're still with us today. But of course, now they're operating in a very different environment. It was around 10,000 years ago that something extraordinary happened. We began to domesticate plants and animals. And for the first time, food surpluses could be produced, stored, and traded. The agricultural revolution did far more than just feed people. It created ownership, wealth, social hierarchies, organized religion, written records, and the first economic systems. It laid the foundations for cities, states, and eventually the great empires of the ancient world. Food surpluses supported larger populations, organized religion, and more complex societies. The Columbian Exchange connected continents, reshaping diets, economies, and populations through the movement of crops, livestock, and disease. And of course, later, agricultural productivity helped fuel urbanization, trade, and the Industrial Revolution. Food was no longer simply sustaining civilization, it was helping to drive it. An interesting one here, I mean, if Ed Sheeran went looking for his blue-eyed Galway girl 7,000 years ago, he probably would have come home disappointed. Most Europeans still had brown eyes. Likewise, for 4,000 years ago, offering her a glass of milk might not have gone much better. Many adults still couldn't digest lactose. And even today, we continue to observe genetic adaptations linked to different dietary patterns around the world. But these changes occur over thousands of years. Human biology evolves slowly, while culture and technology can change within a simple generation. And that gap really is at the heart of many of today's food-related challenges. At the start of the 20th century, in places like New York, 3.2 million population, of which 2.2 million were living in slums in eastern Manhattan, they depended on 25,000 food carts. But humanity was about to enter a period of unprecedented population growth, urbanization, and technology. The challenge was no longer simply producing food, it was how to feed billions of people reliably and safely. Over the next century, humanity added more than 6 billion people and moved billions from farms to towns and cities. For the first time in history, most people relied on others to grow, process, transport, and supply their food. And of course, feeding humanity became one of the greatest logistical challenges ever undertaken. So if we think of the 20th century, think of it from a circle of life perspective: birth, growth, maturity. I mean, birth and emergence, electricity, engines, refrigeration, growth, population boom, mass manufacturing, global trade, supermarkets, convenience food. And that maturity led to abundance, hyper-efficiency, automation, global brands, profitability, and digital systems. We'll deal with the systems strain in a slide or two later. But from feeding people to feeding markets, the challenge was no longer just feeding people. It was about shaping people or what people wanted to eat. And I mean, the question, how did a pharmacist's tonic, originally developed after his morphine addiction, become the world's most popular soft drink, with more than 10,000 servings consumed every second of the day? Or how did a breakfast cereal, developed by a deeply religious physician who promoted it as part of a campaign against what he described as a cure for indigestion and masturbation, become a staple breakfast food around the world? Think of Coca-Cola. For the first time in history, food was commercialized not only to feed growing populations, but also to build brands, shape behavior, and generate profit. I mean, it was in the early 30s when Coca-Cola reinvented Santa Claus for the world. And of course, their marketing campaign has resulted in a company that now has a market value of 240 billion with annual revenues of 46 billion. John Pemberton, who invented Coke, originally sold his interest in Coca-Cola for $2,300 in 1888. Selling breakfast cereals, WK added sugar to his brother's original recipes. And one of his famous New York campaigns was encouraging housewives to give the grocer a wink. And basically, the housewife got was a free box of Kellogg's cornflakes. Over time, that focus shifted from housewives to children. And in '63, Kellogg's launched Fruit Loops, made from whole grain, 12%, mind you. And it also contained 48% sugar. But cartoon characters, television advertising, and emotional appeals transformed breakfast cereals from food products into global brands and convenience cereals. Yeah, you want more? Of course, fill it up. It's a jug out there. What began with a wink to the grocer had now become an advertising jungle. Food was no longer simply being produced to meet demand. It was being formulated and marketed to create it. And to this day, breakfast cereals still heavily promoted. So from feeding people to building markets, as the 20th century progressed, food companies became more than manufacturers. They became marketers, advertisers, and success was no longer determined solely by producing food efficiently. It was increasingly determined by the ability to create consumer demand and build brand loyalty. So what is a food company's primary role in the 20th, 21st century? For much of the 20th century, there were two powerful management philosophies that emerged. And the national food industry has spent the last 50 years balancing these two objectives. By almost every commercial measure, the latter strategy has won out. The food industry didn't merely feed a growing planet, it also became one of the most successful industries in economic history. A $1,000 investment in consumer staples in '63 would today be worth more than 1 million. And the outcomes we see today are not accidents. They're products of the incentives the system was designed to reward. So basically, from brands to global joints, as successful companies expanded, acquired competitors, and entered new markets, the food industry became increasingly concentrated. Today, a relatively small number of multinational corps control hundreds of the world's best-known food brands. So in some ways, the modern food system is one of humanity's greatest success stories. Advances in science, engineering, and global supply chains helped feed a population that grew from 2 billion to 8 billion today. Food has become safer, more affordable, more convenient, and more widely available than ever before. By almost any traditional measure, the system delivered exactly what it was designed to do. The question is not whether the system succeeded, the question is whether we are measuring all of its outcomes. And as our food system evolved, so too did our understanding of human biology, from the discovery of DNA and the decoding of the human genome, to advances in genetics, appetite regulation, microbiome science, and evolutionary biology. The more we learn about ourselves, the more questions we began to ask about the food system we had created. To understand those questions, we first need to understand what we mean by a food system. Food is far more than agriculture and nutrition alone. At its core sits a complex network of activities spanning production, processing, distribution, retail, consumption, and waste. These activities are shaped by powerful technological and economic forces: agricultural innovation, food manufacturing, commodity markets, global supply chains. And together, these activities influence outcomes far beyond food itself, affecting human health, the environment, biodiversity, climate, and public health. In short, food is not just a product, it is actually one of the largest and most influential systems humans have ever created. Taking that figure of 12 trillion in economic value, but when one looks at the broader impacts, such as human health, environmental sustainability, and society, a different picture begins to emerge. And these costs do not disappear. They are simply redistributed elsewhere within the economy, as appearing as healthcare costs, environmental remediation, lost productivity, and wider impacts. In many respects, the outcomes represented in the outer ring of that food system model, human health, environment, and society, are where a significant proportion of these costs ultimately appear. But unlike their physical attributes, we were talking about Ed Sheeran and his blue-eyed Galway girl, cultural systems can change remarkably quickly. The agricultural revolution took thousands of years. The industrial revolution took centuries. But modern food systems have been transformed in just decades. Unlike our genes, these systems are not fixed. They were designed by people, shaped by institutions, and influenced by incentives. And if we created them, we also have the power to redesign them. If we think of those stress factors from the 20th century being carried over into the 21st century, huge possibilities in terms of human health, growth, maturity, and solutions to look at some of these aspects. If the 20th century transformed the food system, the unintended consequences, obesity, chronic disease, environmental pressure, climate impacts, and rising hidden costs. The challenge of the 21st century is no longer simply about producing food, it's about producing better outcomes. And that is where the challenge for us as chemical engineers, process engineers is. The craziest thing is we do actually have the solutions. I mean, as per some of our previous presentation, high pressure processing, pulsed electric fields, cold plasma, future fertilizers. We can get away from the Haber-Bosch high intensity energy, food from air. I mean, Finland, first factories up and running, they're now going to produce the second one, where they're actually producing a perfect protein, literally from air and a single cell organism or micro hydrogenotrope. Precision fermentation, cell agriculture. And then, right, well, it doesn't quite fit into the food category. It can help solve some of the problems that are out there at the moment, i.e. GLP therapies. The challenge for all of us going forward is how can we adopt that? The other side of it is the economics. You know, as per the Food Systems Economic Commission, to achieve a healthier, more sustainable and resilient food system would require additional investments of around 500 billion per year globally. That sounds significant until it's compared to the scale of the opportunity and the rewards that could be achieved if we could manage it. So if food shaped humanity over millions of years, now humanity must shape the future of food. The next chapter is ours to write, and we need to involve everybody: educators, farmers, food industry, investors, retailers, scientists, governments, and consumers to come together to write that next chapter. So, thank you for listening to me. Meng Wei, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Seamus. I think I'm gonna get a book after this talk.